Carlos from CEMIC in Brazil asked whether or not North American electric utilities have systematic management of tree planting in partnership with municipalities. Carlos, I'm not sure I'm clear on your question, so I'm going to take a rather broad approach to this topic, and hopefully in that provide you the answer that you're looking for. I would say typically utilities do not have a systematic tree planting type partnership. That might be the case if it's a municipal utility where one department is responsible, say, for planting boulevard trees, and another department would be the electric department. But for investor-owned utilities, it would be somewhat different. Back in, typically this started, I would say, in the mid-1980s and early 1990s. A lot of the major utilities set up what they call municipal tree replacement programs. And in that, they identify areas that are a problem to them and seek to remove old established trees and replace them with planting that's compatible with the electric service. Now, there's two types of situations here. And one would be, for example, a safety concern. Let's say you have trees planted directly underneath a line that happens to run across a schoolyard or just outside the schoolyard or across a playground, where safety would be the big concern. Now, in that case, the safety would drive it, and the utility would seek to do a tree replacement there, and costs really aren't a big factor in it. But in most cases, it would be an identification of trees that, for example, we tend to call cycle busters, where, let's say, the typical maintenance cycle is 3 years for pruning, and there may be locations in that where clearances are so restricted as to require annual pruning. So this would create additional costs, and the utility would approach the municipality seeking to alleviate that with a tree replacement program. Now, on a tree replacement program, some utilities just go at this with saying it'd be good to get rid of these trees. However, the approach that I recommend is to put it on a financial basis so that you are not disadvantaging the customers of the utility. That is, let's say you have these trees that require annual pruning, and you assess them and say you could realistically look at they're having a life of another 40 to 50 years. And so what you would do is take the present value cost of pruning those trees for the next 40 years, and you would say that is the money that is available for alternatives. One of those alternatives may be a tree replacement. Having that figure, then the municipality can be approached, and some sort of sharing arrangement is made up to the value of the 40 years, the present value of 40 years of pruning. The arrangement that's made is going to depend on circumstances. Some of the utilities have set up arboretums where they grow their own trees, and so they might supply the trees. In other cases, it might be the municipality supplies the trees. So it's dependent on the circumstances. I can tell you about a program I was involved in back in my days with a utility, where we worked with a city to replace, it was over 500 boulevard trees, and these trees were directly underneath the line, and because of the pruning necessary, certainly were nowhere near the form that these trees should have, and looked rather ugly. We approached the city on replacing those trees with low-growing trees that were ornamental cherry, and what we offered to do was to remove the tree, grind the stump. We, as the utility, handled all the communication. We put articles in the local newspaper. We created tags that were put on the trees. So in addition to, of course, we spoke to the people along the street where the trees were going to be replaced so that they were aware of it. However, people that were in the broader neighborhood, if they didn't happen to see the community article, what we did was we created what we call tree tags, and we put these on the trees that were going to be replaced, and they had a picture of the tree that was going to replace the large, old, heavily pruned tree. We also took care of watering for the first year, and the city, they provided the tree, did the planting, the soft landscaping costs, the soft landscaping that was necessary. And then if it was deemed necessary, based on weather conditions, that the trees required watering in year 2 and 3, the city would undertake that at their cost. So in that way, we spent only up to the 40 years of pruning that was offset by having these smaller trees put in that would never require replacement and be compatible with the electrical infrastructure. I trust, Carlos, that that is the sort of information you wanted, and if it's not, then please feel free to goose the moose once more.